I spent 80 years collecting things that could never love me back.
My house is filled with priceless treasures, yet it is completely empty. I traded genuine connection for the cold, hard safety of financial security.
Now, I am the wealthiest and the poorest man I have ever known.
You see, I never intended to end up this alone. Nobody does. I look around this room now, at the mahogany shelves, the first edition books that have never been opened, the Ming vase sitting in the corner that is worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. And I don't feel pride. I feel a heavy, suffocating silence. For 40 years, I was an antiquities dealer. I told myself I was a guardian of history, a man of refined taste. But if I am being honest with you, brutally honest, I was just a man hiding behind objects. I remember the thrill of the hunt. That was my drug. I would wake up at 4:00 a.m., my heart racing, not because I was excited to see a lover or a friend, but because there was an estate sale in Connecticut or an auction in London. I measured my worth strictly by what I could acquire. I believed that if I owned something rare, then I became rare. If I owned something valuable, I became valuable. It is a seductive lie that the material world whispers to you. It tells you that safety comes from possession. I spent decades studying the provenance of tables and chairs. I could tell you the difference between a reproduction and a masterwork by the feel of the varnish under my thumb. But I couldn't tell you what my own brother was feeling when his marriage fell apart. I didn't have time for that. People were messy. People were unpredictable. They asked for things. They required emotional maintenance. But a grandfather clock? A grandfather clock just needed winding. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. It was reliable. I constructed a life that was impeccable on the surface. I wanted people to walk into my home and be intimidated by my success. And they were. I saw the envy in their eyes, and I mistook that envy for respect. I thought I was winning the game of life because my scoreboard, my bank account, my assets was higher than theirs. I didn't realize that I was playing a game of solitaire. I was building a fortress out of gold bars and velvet ropes, not realizing that the purpose of a fortress is to keep people out. And I succeeded. God help me. I succeeded. I kept everyone out. There is a specific cruelty that develops when you view everything as a transaction. In my business, everything had a price. Everything was negotiable. You learn to look for flaws, for cracks, for weakness, so you can drive the price down. The tragedy is that I started doing this with people. I stopped seeing my friends as companions and started seeing them as liabilities or assets. I remember a man named Thomas. We started out together in the late 60s, scraping by, sharing a drafty apartment in Brooklyn. He was the one who taught me how to restore canvas. He was the godfather to a daughter I never had. But as I began to climb, as the money started to roll in, I became suspicious. That is the poison of wealth that nobody warns you about. You start to wonder, does he like me? Or does he like what I can do for him? There was a deal in 1985, a collection coming out of a decaying estate in France. Thomas brought it to me. He trusted me. We were supposed to go in on it 50-50, but I saw the numbers. I knew the profit margin was astronomical, enough to set me up for life. Greed is not a sudden explosion. It is a slow creep. I convinced myself that Thomas wasn't savvy enough to handle the logistics. I told myself I was protecting the deal. So I went behind his back. I cut him out. I bought the collection directly from the estate before he could secure his financing. I remember the look on his face when I told him. He didn't scream. He didn't fight. He just looked at me with this quiet, devastating confusion, as if he was looking at a stranger. He simply said, "I didn't know we were competitors," and he walked away. I made $3 million on that deal. In 1985, that was an empire. I bought this house with that money. I bought the car I wanted. I told myself it was just business. That's what we say when we betray someone, isn't it? It's just business. But I sit here now, 40 years later, and I would give every single cent of that $3 million just to be able to pick up the phone and call him. But Thomas died 6 years ago. I didn't go to the funeral. I was too ashamed. I traded a soul for a sale, and the receipt is burned into my memory. The irony is that the more I isolated myself, the more successful I became. By my late 50s, I was untouchable. I was the man you came to if you wanted the best. I had achieved what I thought was the pinnacle of existence, complete financial independence. I didn't need anyone. I didn't answer to anyone. I had curated a life of absolute control. I recall the night of my biggest auction. It was a charity gala, black tie, crystal chandeliers, the smell of expensive perfume and champagne. I was selling a piece I had held onto for a decade. When the gavel went down, the room erupted in applause. People were shaking my hand, slapping my back, handing me business cards. I was the center of the universe. I felt this surge of adrenaline, this intoxicating validation. See, I thought. I was right. This is what matters, this power. But then, the night ended. The lights were turned off. The guests went home to their families, to their messy, loud, chaotic homes. I went back to my hotel suite. I remember ordering a bottle of wine from room service, costing more than my father made in a month. I sat on the edge of the bed, pouring a glass, waiting for the feeling of satisfaction to settle in. I waited for the joy, but it didn't come. Instead, a profound coldness washed over me. I had the check in my pocket. I had the victory, but I had nobody to tell. I realized that success, when unshared, tastes exactly like ash. I picked up the phone to call someone, anyone, and I realized I had no one to call who wouldn't simply congratulate the money. I had no one who cared about the man holding the money. I sat there in that 5-star silence, weeping into a $1,000 glass of wine. I had reached the top of the mountain, only to find that the air was too thin to breathe, and I was the only one there. Then came the day I retired. I closed the gallery, auctioned off the remaining inventory, and retreated to this house, my sanctuary. I told myself I had earned this peace. I thought I wanted solitude. Solitude is a beautiful word, isn't it? It implies a dignified withdrawal from the noise of the world. But I quickly learned that there is a razor-thin line between solitude and loneliness, and that line is drawn by the presence of other people who care that you are gone. For the first 6 months, I was busy organizing. I cataloged my library. I polished the silver. I arranged the furniture with geometric precision. But then, the tasks ran out, and the silence moved in. It wasn't a peaceful silence. It was a heavy, accusing silence. In my profession, I spent my life ensuring that objects were preserved in perfect condition. I kept the humidity controlled. I kept the sunlight out to prevent fading. I treated this house like a museum. But do you know who lives in museums? Ghosts. And the security guards who watch them. I had become both. I realized that my possessions, these things I sacrificed relationships for, are indifferent to me. I can sit in this Louis XIV chair, and it does not offer me comfort. It only offers me posture. I can stare at that grandfather clock, and it doesn't give me more time. It only counts down what I have left. When I fell ill last winter, a bad flu that kept me in bed for a week, I lay there staring at the ceiling. The phone didn't ring. Not once. Why would it? I had spent 40 years teaching the world that I didn't need it. I had trained people to leave me alone. Now, I walk through these rooms, and I see the ghosts of the conversations I didn't have. I see the dinner parties I didn't host because I was afraid someone would spill wine on the carpet. I see the children I didn't have because I thought they would interfere with my career. I protected my assets, yes. My carpets are pristine. My porcelain is unchipped. But my life? My life is pristine too. Untouched, unused, and that is the greatest tragedy of all. A life that has been preserved in plastic, waiting for a special occasion that never came. Now that I am in the final chapter, I have been forced to audit my own existence. In accounting, we have a ledger, credits on one side, debits on the other. For decades, I thought the credit column was filled with money, property, and reputation. I thought the debit column was wasted time or bad investments. But looking back from the vantage point of 82 years, I see that my accounting was fundamentally flawed. I was balancing the wrong books. The true currency of a human life is not what you have acquired. It is what you have given away. It is the vulnerability you shared. The moments where you allowed yourself to be messy, to be inconvenient, to be human. I look at my net worth, and it is a substantial number. But when I look at my human worth, the impact I have had on the hearts of others, I am bankrupt. I am destitute. I have spent a lifetime gathering kindling, money, status, objects, but I never struck the match. I never built the fire that would keep me warm in this winter of my life. I have come to realize that we are all just temporary custodians of our possessions. When I die, which will be soon, this collection will be dispersed. An auctioneer will come in here, tag everything with a lot number, and sell it to the highest bidder. These objects will go on to live in other houses, indifferent to the fact that I ever owned them. My legacy is not this collection. My legacy is the void I created around it. I see now that the greatest illusion of materialism is the idea of permanence. We buy things to feel permanent, to feel grounded. But the only thing that actually transcends death is love. It sounds like a cliché written on a greeting card, I know. But when you are staring into the abyss, clichés fall away, and only the truth remains. And the truth is, I would trade this entire house, every antique, every dollar, for just one memory of holding a grandchild, or one memory of a friend laughing at a joke I told. I am a curator of a magnificent, empty life. Don't let that be your epitaph. I am telling you this because I see the way the world is moving now. I see it in the young men who walk past my gate, talking loudly into their phones about hustle and grind and scaling up. I see the hunger in your eyes. You want to build, you want to acquire, you want to be safe. And I understand that. I was you. I know the seductive pull of the future, the promise that once I have X, then I will be happy. But I need you to look at me, really look at me. I am your future if you do not change your course. I am the ghost of Christmas future. I am the man who won the game, only to realize the prize was a cage. You are trading your prime years for a security that is an illusion. You are decluttering your life of people to make room for ambition. Please, do not make the mistake of thinking that you can buy back the time you sell. The exchange rate is 0. So, what can you do? If I could go back to being 50 or 40 or even 30, I would do things very differently. I would stop trying to be impressive and start trying to be connected. First, stop treating your life like a museum. Use the good china on a Tuesday night. Let the kids jump on the couch. Scuff the floors. A scratched table is a sign of life. A pristine table is a sign of neglect. Break the perfection. Second, invest in living assets. Call the friend you haven't spoken to in 2 years. Not to network, not to ask for something, but just to say, I was thinking about you. That phone call is worth more than any stock you will ever buy. And finally, learn to be vulnerable. The strongest thing a man can do is admit he is lonely, admit he is scared, admit he needs people. Do not build a fortress, build a table. Make it long, make it crowded, and don't worry about the stains.
Fill your house with noise before the silence takes over. Do not die rich in money and poor in memories. I am leaving now. Please do not follow my path. The things you own will eventually end up owning you.